I moved to Atlanta in the late 80s, early 90s for college. Um, I am originally from New York, born there. Moved to Detroit, and then I moved to Atlanta, as I said, for college. Um, when I got here at Morehouse, the only dance clubs or whatever that I knew of at that time were Tracks, maybe Color Box. These places were around, kind of. So the people that were DJing, I guess, when we were here, were Ron Pullman, Daz Wright, Ted Patterson. Um, that was what was here when I got here. Um, they kind of ran the college or those club scenes. Those were the big guys. This guy named Samir Cliff Hall. He actually put me on some gig because Ron Pullman had moved away. I think that party was kind of what gave me my acceptance in the like whoever was in house music at that time and that kind of underground like I think that was sort of the blossom of it. From that point on, I played a few parties, other parties with him, and then he got me a residency at a place called Velvet. Velvet was pretty much nationally acclaimed club at the time. We did a Thursday night there. Me and Soul Messiah, as well as Carl Injex, who was playing music upstairs, playing jazz music, which in 360 we'll talk about Carl later. Um, I also, within those same years, I got a job at Trax. Um, so between going to college, working at Velvet, and also working at Trax, I kind of had this trifecta of knowing a lot of the gay community. I know a lot of the college community. I knew a lot of the just midtown, I guess what you would consider hipsters now. I knew all those. So from that point on, I just kind of kept a career or just kept playing in clubs. So from that point on, I think, wow. What did I just say? So started at Velvet, Tracks, and maybe Oxygen. Oxygen was probably the next big thing, which was on Tuesday evening. We would have celebrities like Dave Justice and all these kind of hip hop people kind of coming through there, and that was also a connection through Cliff Samir and another guy named Emo, and yeah, that was a great time for Atlanta. Um, yeah, I don't know. From that point, I went to Kaya, Nomenclature, and then the next big stint for me would have been MJQ, which MJQ we played every Saturday for about almost 9, 10 years, and brought everyone. Yeah, that is a pretty quick abbreviated um, story of me here in Atlanta. So when I got here, I can't say that was mostly hip hop per se, as much as just popular music. Was whatever was popular at the time. And I guess hip hop was popular at the time. So, was there an underground house scene? I can't really say there was, you know what I'm saying? So there was, again, Tracks, which was a gay club that played house music. There was Color Box, which Ted Patterson played at, but it was more so he played house music to this kind of midtown crowd, which they were the hip people, but I can't say they were it was like a house scene. Okay, then I guess a little bit of the underground then started coming out, which would have been there was a place called Weekends. and this guy is called Madhouse, and they play more like trancier um, music at the time. At that time, I was probably heavily influenced by like Junior Vasquez, New York. So I was kind of coming with that music, and they would let me come and play with them. And that was at weekends. And I think that's when it's, I guess I would say scenes or underground started to form in Atlanta. And Liquefied started then, which Liquefied is still, they're still doing gigs now. Earth Tone Sound System, which was just kind of like a group of guys that would kind of set up their sound system out, which Kieran is still out here doing stuff now. I started doing like some underground parties, but yeah, I don't even know if I was doing underground parties as much as I was like always at some underground spots. But these were, the underground started, I would say, was becoming whatever it was at that time. So I started to pull on some of my connections from Detroit and Chicago. So I brought Shay Damier in town, Ron Trent. Second Saturdays was going on at the time. So Second Saturdays was Earwax, which was a record store. So every second Saturday we pushed the records aside. And that probably was, that was definitely the underground. And that was when the scenes, really started to formulate, So, how House in the Park started. At that time, me and Ramon were doing, I was playing with him at a party that he had started called The Gathering, which he's still currently doing now, if I'm correct. I think if I'm correct. And was at a place called Imported Underground. Eventually he got the idea he wanted to do something outdoors, Again, not reinventing the wheel or anything like that, just wanted to do some music outdoors. So the first one is at Candler Park. It's me, I think me, Ramon, Kim, and Sunlight. For real? Yeah. Colin Cole. And then by chance, Tyrone Francis was in town. He maybe played the night prior, so he played some tunes. But yeah, that was it was only about maybe 100, 200 people, but that was at Candler Park. And then we moved to Perkinson Park. And we stayed at Perkinson Park for about 6 years, so it was 7 altogether. Now House and Park is 7 years strong. And then we moved to Grant Park. And we've been at Grant Park ever since. And we're probably now at number 16, 17, something like that. And it's just been like kind of, started off kind of like really easy. Just, we'd throw it, we'd get donations, paid off everything, simple. But just as time went along and as bigger it got, just more people, more problems, and you have to. For what people don't understand is that we are babysitting them for 8 hours, so we have to make sure you got water. We got to make sure that if something happens to you, there's somebody to take care of you. Something pops off, we need to be the, So there's just a lot more internal things, but because it grew fast, but then once it got to like a nice large amount, it stayed at that large amount for a little while before it grew again. So we got a lot of things in place. Most of that I have to give it up to Ramon by, very always attentive going downtown and speaking to the people down at the city. So he has a very good reputation, and luckily a lot of people have stayed in place. So every year, we're kind of talking to the same people to get things done. We never really have any problems, so everyone doesn't mind working with us. So Houston Park has definitely become something that we never thought it would. Why? I guess why I guess the soul floor dance floor, or maybe the Black American dance music that started this, why isn't it as large as such things as EDM? For one, EDM does not. I mean, they have an image and a whole like persona thing that goes, which we never. I don't think we didn't engage in that until after the fact. You know, most of the time, our DJs became famous or became popular due to the music they played and what they put into it. And then their names went around. People didn't care about what they looked like, what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, you never even saw the DJ. You know what I'm saying? Back then, it wasn't until DJs became to the forefront. So EDM has a whole different take on what they're going to see and what they're going to hear. When we were going to see these DJs, we were going for the music and for the experience. These people are kind of going for a whole different experience and a music that attributes to that, you know what I'm saying? So, whereas I guess maybe our culture and music went together, and here it's a different, yeah, with EDM, it's just a totally different thing. So you'll never, you're not going to see Louis Vega on a big EDM stage because the music doesn't apply there, you know what I'm saying? Those guys aren't trying to enjoy each other. They're just there to just kind of expend energy, you know? It's a energizing concert kind of feeling, you know? It's not about a feeling of togetherness or community or whatever, which our music has, just like jazz music or whatever else. There's a sense of we're here together. And yeah, you don't get that with EDM. The money side. So for one, EDM also kind of birthed out of the raves, and most of those raves, they were expensive. They never were inexpensive. You know what I'm saying? Raves always were like $60, $70, you know, and up. And so I think when you come to those people, when they look at going to those type of events, that the ticket, they're expecting that. On our end, unfortunately, some of us still think it's 1980, so they still want to get in for $10. But yes, now when I look at it, yeah, you really do need a $20, $25, maybe even $35 ticket, especially when you're talking about DJs that have larger fees. Especially, you know, you're bringing people from out of town, you're putting them in hotels. Yeah, you know, if it's a DIY spot where it's not a club that's already set up, you're paying for sound. So it gets expensive. And if you're only getting 200 people, and those 200 people have to pay more, you know, at that point, you're paying for the exclusivity and something that you know a lot of other people aren't getting. And they'll just have to come around to that, you know. So for me, I didn't run into many politics. I kind of stayed in my own lane. I kind of did things independently, so I never really looked for anyone to necessarily put me on. Like I said earlier, Samir, I guess was the first person. I can say that, like, there's definitely people who invested in me and invested time in me. I don't think that there was anyone who was like pulled my arm or held my hand, and so once I got a taste of doing it on my own, I can always say doing it on my own, and I always treated people right. So I didn't have an issue with that. Most of the people that were above me, when I met them, they recognized what I did. So I never felt any kind of like gatekeeping from them, should I say. Even though, funny enough, with Samir and them, Samir Hall. So prior to, I guess, Samir putting me on, there was a place called Plastics, which Ron Pullman used to do, and which was like the scene, like mostly college kids, because it was thrown by Samir, Obi, and this guy named Ivan. And so, like, you know, tons of kids, people, right? And they're bringing Clark Kent. It's Ron Pullman usually, and then this guy named Kobe. And Kobe was my roommate. And just because I was from Detroit, they assumed that I played my music too fast, so they never really put me like Obi and whatchamacallit would always kind of veto, be like, no, those Detroit cats play the music too fast. You can't let them play. But Kobe was using my records when he would go out and play. You know what I'm saying? So it was my records a lot of times that Kobe would go out, like the brand new hot shit, because I was the one kind of buying and staying in touch with it. Kobe not so much at the time, but he was cool with, because he was from New Jersey and he was from their part of, you know, the country. So yeah, I guess that was a little bit of politics, I guess. The youth. The only way you can track the youth is to, I mean, I guess talk to the youth, go to those parties where the youth are at. Try to play at those parties where the youth is at, you know, if, you know, you can work that out. But I've always been, I've always been maybe a mentor to younger black DJs, producers in the country. From Kyle Hall to now Stefan Ringer, Byron the Aquarius, Ashley, who's here, you know, she's doing real well. Like, so I've just tried to always stay in touch and just being, have an open ear, as well as, you know, able to pass on some knowledge when I can, is the best way, because the youth have to speak to the youth themselves. Like me talking, going out there and trying to promote myself amongst the youth is not necessarily going to happen. It's going to be somebody from the youth who maybe experiences me and understands, and then can go back and translate it to the people of his age, you know. And yeah, that's the way it happens, you know. And I think in 20 years we'll be fine, you know. I think there's enough of us, or enough that are still learning right now, that, you know, by the time all of us are gone, there'll be some more here. I don't see as much as they're coming from out of Chicago as much as I see Detroit and New York. The youth, that is, black youth, that is, as well. Why that is, I don't know, you know. And that could be the gatekeeping, who knows, you know. That would be somebody from Chicago would probably have to answer that. So, the creation of NDATL, which stands for New York, Detroit, Atlanta, 3 places where I've lived. Also, somebody should ask you where you live. I say NDATL. You know, early on, I never really thought about getting into production per se. That's something maybe later on, I'd say maybe in the early 2000s, late 90s, where I guess it also was a sense of, you know, to kind of move your career forward, you needed to produce something. You know, that's what the age was. But I also wanted to, you know, a little bit. That's when I started to get the bug for that. And then I just, you know, started to actually just work on production. And I think maybe somewhere around, I probably put out some things early 2000s through my friend Track Mode, put out some things like through Mahogany Music, Moody Man. But I think in 2006, 8 was when I felt comfortable enough to start my own label. And with all the relationships that I've created over the past 15, 20 years prior to that, at MJQ and things of that nature, I was able to, you know, get a lot of remixes or productions from people. But the first couple singles were just my production. Shouts out to Ricky, blind man Ricky, who helped me like kind of flesh out my first couple of tunes. Really helped me out. I'm not the great keyboardist. I'm the more of a set it up and then but yeah, so that NDATL started 2008, and since then it's been doing great. I can't complain. Shouts out to Larry Hurd, Mr. G, Comedic Just, SEL, everybody who's helped me along the way to get to where NDATL is at now. I thank them all. More to come. Also in 2020, I started an eyewear brand. And that eyewear brand is Alce Eyewear. So yeah, I have been wearing glasses all my life. I've always had multiple pairs. Always tried to find interesting pair of glasses. So people would always be like, "Okay, you always got some dope glasses, got some dope glasses." And eventually, it got to the point where people were like, "Man, you should start your own eyewear line." And I was like, I toyed around them for a little while, and then COVID kind of hit, and you're twiddling your fingers, and I'd already been thinking about it, so I just was like, well, no better year than start in 2020, vision 2020, and yeah, here we are, 2023, and I'm working on my next two models. We're just getting ready to drop. One of those models that I'm wearing right now, and the reception has been great, and support has been great. Yeah.